Saturn is moving through the 21st degree of Aquarius as we approach Christmas time. Changes about the 17th. And this particular Sabian symbol of a woman disillusioned is potentially quite poignant. And we have to come to terms with this when Saturn is going through this degree. It's been there before, forward once, retrograde once, and now it's going through its final pass. So the lessons that are hard to learn are now finishing off. We need to really get this sorted out. Let me just read the text first. The issue is to do with disappointment. Aquarius 21, a woman disappointed and disillusioned, facing emotional pain with stoicism. Sometimes we face the future with the expectation that nothing much of value is coming our way. This occurs when we have had our hopes dashed and cannot reaffirm optimism. It is a great emotional challenge to resist despair and courageously and stubbornly choose to be hopeful. In fact, perhaps the greatest gift of faith is the refusal to allow pessimism to take hold. Faith is not a gift or an opinion, but a decision, and it indicates exceptional maturity. Faith. We don't have to have faith in God to have faith. We have to have faith in ourselves and faith in the future. Those two things together, that'll do. And what we have faith in is that the future is better than the past. However, it goes up and down. Everything does. Everything works in cycles. And sometimes life's a bit rougher than other times. But it doesn't last. Nothing does. So Saturn is coming through this degree and really teaching us about pity and self-pity and so on. And it's not wholesome. Most particularly self-pity. I'm not really sure pity for another is either. I think that creates the sense of victimhood, and that potentially could begin a downward spiral that we cannot indulge safely, and we must not. And people who despair because they just can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they turn their assertiveness inwards against themselves. Especially when Mars is involved, you see this, because Mars, when it's angry with the world, is actually more healthy than when it's angry with itself. And the anger with self is the condition that creates self-pity and attracts disillusionment and disappointment. Now here we've got Saturn looking at this question, and Saturn is quite hard, really. It's a hard energy, and it's the trainer. It's the aspect of life that puts us through challenges that we can adopt an adult, responsible attitude to life in future. And actually, it's not responsible to be self-indulgent into your pain. It's selfish, and it's not helpful to other people. But actually, it's not helpful to yourself at all. It's more dangerous than any drug. So we have to deal with it. And I am frequently reprimanded almost because I am told I lack compassion for somebody when I say to them, get out of your pity, get out of your self-pity. It's not helpful. I'm not going to help you stay in there by sympathizing with your self-pity. And a lot of people really don't like that. And some have got very angry with me. And that's sometimes a little bit of a thing I do. Try and get people angry. Because anger is actually a healing force when it's applied to self-pity. Because you can't feel self-pity when you're angry with somebody. And I saved a man's life once who was very close to certainty of suicide. And he asked me, how can I help him? He wants to kill himself. How can I help? And I told him of a high building nearby that might be useful for him. And he was so angry with me. And he put all of his self-anger out on me. And of course he never spoke to me again, but he didn't kill himself. And I think what we have to do here is understand that the disappointment and the delusion of life is something we have to come to terms with. It is a delusion. We're promised things. They're lies. We're promised to be able to live happily ever after we get married. What nonsense is that? What's the nonsense that children are told in fairy stories and so on? That's the nonsense it is. There is no such thing as happily ever after. And here's the thing. We don't want that. We don't want to live happily ever after. What we want is difficult challenges followed by a feeling of completion, even triumph, for a little while until we get something like boredom. And then we want another difficult challenge, and we want hardships to deal with, and we want disappointments to deal with, because growth is what we're all about. We don't want to be on this happy plane of nothing's going on. Doesn't move us forward. We have to go up and down, or we can't move forward. So the extent to which we actually get involved in disappointment and disillusion is our choice. There might be a momentary feeling of, oh dear, I wanted something else there than what happened. And that might even apply when somebody has died, or you've lost a relationship or something, and it might be quite severe. Okay? For a temporary period of time, that's just normal, that's fine, and there's nothing we can do. It's whether or not you actually come out of that, and how long you dwell in that state that's discussed here. And what Saturn's saying as it goes through that is, enough's enough. Get up and get on with it. I'm reminded of a train journey I did. I was actually driving back on the train from Moscow, and the conductress of the train saw me playing with tarot cards, and she asked me to help her. And through a translator, I was able to hear her story. And she'd lost her husband, with whom she used to work on the train as a conductor, actually. And her children, her two daughters, were kind of missing her vitality and her smiling, normal self, because she was grieving over her father. And so to this complete stranger on a train, I said, stop being so selfish, woman. You've got children to look after. Get over yourself. Look after your children. And she was shocked, but she just relaxed. Yeah. I'd slapped her in the face. And she knew what I was doing. The Russians are a lot more savvy than the Westerners, I think, in this respect. They know that a teacher knows how to teach and does so in different ways, which are quite exceptional sometimes. So I slapped her in the face with this criticism of her. And she just woke up to the fact that she was losing her daughters because of her self-pity. And that's what we do. We forfeit the rest of our lives if we indulge in the bad bits, historically. The bad bits happen, they're bound to happen, but you don't have to make them last. The way to overcome this is with a great deal of strength of mind. And we come back again and again and again to the understanding that mind is everything. I associate aspects of the heart with the mind. I don't think we can separate mind and heart. So I'm not saying we can't feel it in the heart, but we can control, actually, what we feel in the heart if we have the strength of mind to resist despair. You can't really expect anything to go away if you resist it. What resists persists. So what we do is we affirm something else with a greater strength than the power of the disappointment. Now that affirmation is faith. we have the capacity to affirm a stronger faith than the strength of our despair. In other words, faith is not a concept or a declaration of religiosity or spirituality. It might include those things, but in essence, faith is a direction of mind. It's a focus of thought. You concentrate your attention on faith. That's what works. Rather than looking at emotional pain and disillusionment and despair and giving your attention to those things by noticing how you feel, you don't. You might notice that you feel very, very bad today, but then dismiss it. Focus your attention on faith. And it's very good to focus your attention on work as well. Activity, for sure. Other people, that helps. That really does work. And it's not so much it is a tool of healing, but it's not only that. It's a discipline of mastery. It's the truth behind prayer. Really, I mean, prayer is a way of focusing the mind. You align various centers to help that focus gain depth and power. But faith, like prayer, is a focusing of the mind. And we look in a certain direction with the mind. And whatever direction we're looking in is the direction that we're going in. So if you look at your pain and you look at your sort of sorry life and so on and so forth, that's the direction that you're taking yourself in. So you have to look for the light at the end of the tunnel. And when you look for it, you can't see it. You need to look. So you look for a long time and you notice that actually your peripheral vision is more likely to pick up the light first. That's a phenomenon of the eyes. You can't see you can't see dim lights so well when you're looking at them as you can with your peripheral vision. Now, that metaphor is really good for life itself. Instead of looking at the life that you know, just look sideways. Just allow your peripheral vision to take in new people that have come, new opportunities that have come, new points of view. It's there. That's where the light is. And then you turn to that direction, and that's the direction where is the end of the tunnel. It's not where you're looking. If it was where you're looking, you'd have found it. It isn't there. It's somewhere else, and that's going to be sideways. And what that means is you've got to do something different. You've got to take your attention away from what you were doing. Inevitably, you're grieving because of a previous lack of mastery. Even when you lose through death a beloved, it's not healthy to allow that grief to pull you down permanently. After a wholesome period of honouring that which was, you have to honour that which will be. You can't really allow yourself to be completely into grief. You have to keep an eye on the future as well, or it will suck you down. The thing to do is to avoid that. So, quite a stern lesson here from Saturn. And Saturn delivers stern lessons generally, but here is delivering a very stern message about a very stern risk, a very great danger that we could be drawn into despair. Now, of course, we're talking on the personal level most of all. Most of us think about ourselves. But take this up a dimension and you think about the planet and the comments you hear about the planet. Most of them are negative, aren't they? Most of them have to do with a complaint against corruption in government, in business, in politics and so on, and that kind of complaint. We don't congratulate the government for what they've done, which is like giving us a very comfortable life indeed. Thank you. We don't say that very often. We don't do very much to look at the positive news around climate change. Because of climate change, and since this attention was given to it, we've come up with wonderful technologies that don't quite work properly yet, but they will. They must. And the advancement in human consciousness during the last 50 years has been absolutely phenomenal. You know, we've moved into a hyper-intelligent way of being as a species. And all of this is during the same time as we've had climate change, and possibly because we feel threatened by it. If we focus on the negative aspects of our lives collectively, then collectively we will, like lemmings, be rushing for the cliff face, you know, to throw ourselves off. It's not okay. It's wrong. We have a duty of optimism. We have a duty of faith. And we have a duty not to let anyone else enjoy their pity party. If somebody starts moaning about their life to you, tell them to stop, walk away, risk losing a friend, because you have a duty of care to them, which is to slap them in the face when they're getting self-indulgent in their self-pity. That's hard, I know, but think about it.